welcome to the Laughing Monkey Music Show. Today we have Tony and Lauren, Cruzados. How are you?
Excellent. How you doing, John?
Excellent. I could have timed it better with you a mouthful of a beverage too. I to introduce you.
Yeah. Hey, Sean. I love to drink my tea in my cream magazine cup here. So
Here.
Nice. Very cool. Very cool. And David Bowie, you guys, I don't have anything. So you guys
Yeah.
have been pretty prolific lately, though. An album, a live album, now an EP. Let's talk.
Well, we've been cranking a lot of stuff lately because we're headed to Europe in a few days, and we wanted to. It's been a year since the Cruzados were in Europe. We wanted to go back with a lot of stuff, so we're going back with 2 new albums.
As you're saying about going a lot of material for Europe, when you reformed the band, do you play a lot, obviously in the California area, and then head over to Europe?
We've been playing out here a lot, and mostly just Europe. Really, we're gearing up to start some dates in the States. So as soon as we come back, we're planning on a few things that are in the works. But it's mostly just been Europe, which has been pretty fabulous for Cruzados. So
that sounds pretty cool. How come Europe, though? All of a sudden, is it just a bigger fan base over there, a bigger starting spot? Just as cool.
I think it's exciting over there, and there's more fans over there that know the band and familiar with it, over the years.
yeah, and I think it's easier for bands to logistically do Europe because like 500 kilometers in any direction, there's like 20 or 30 cities. So, it's easy to set up a tour and drive 500 or 600 miles or less between shows. We're like West Coast, where we're based. If we go like up to San Francisco, it's 8 hours. Phoenix and a little long trying to go to the East Coast.
You're right. Europe
Logistically,
different.
yeah, and uh, God bless American music fans, but in Europe, and I think Japan, Tony will attest to it. People in Europe are just fans of all kinds of American music, and so they really go out and support bands at our level and just all types of bands and all kinds of music styles, I think.
Yeah.
I hear that a lot.
I love live. Yeah.
Well, I think maybe it's almost like it's more fun, like because it's not from originally from where you're at. Just like if a foreign band comes over here from England or from Europe, you're like, it's not in my backyard. It makes it more exciting, for fans.
It's
feels like
totally
it's more of a
exciting for us. Just traveling every day and going to different places, and we love it. It couldn't be better when we're over there. We have a great time.
Now, Tony, had you been doing a lot of touring prior or anything before? I know Lauren's a road dog as it is. We've talked before. He's always playing and touring. Had you been doing a lot before this reformation?
Not touring. I stopped touring in 2008. I was on the road for like 25 years touring with different bands and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I took a little hiatus and didn't think I was really going to tour ever again because I put a lot of time in. And I thought,
How does it
okay,
feel to start touring again after being home all the time when you're not used to it?
it's awesome, man. The pandemic is what sparked it. I was losing my mind at home, and I was like, I would love to play some of my old songs again and go on the road.
Yeah.
And that's what sparked the whole thing. So
That's pretty funny. I think with this pandemic, I hated going out too. Now I'm like, I almost feel like I want to be social now. Like before the pandemic, I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to go across town in my car with my kids. Now I'm like, now to my wife, I'm like, we should go on a trip. We should just go somewhere. The world's
that's
small.
in my case, it was like, I got to start playing again. I want to go to Europe. I want to do this. I want to do that. You got a lot of time sitting around doing nothing to think about it. So when we were trapped inside, so that's how it all came about.
What about the songwriting process? 'Cause I know you wrote some songs, and then as a band, Lauren, you guys also co-wrote. All you guys co-wrote some songs. What's the
Yeah.
process with that?
Just hashing it out, getting in our rehearsal space. Lauren in a riff, or I'll bring in something, and everybody get together in the room and just trying to come up with something that works. So, trial and error. But
Yeah, and I think
Yes.
with the first Cruzados album that we did, what was it, 2020 or
yeah,
2021? Tony,
21.
yeah, the thing was Tony had all those songs, those great songs that
Mhm.
he had written. And that was the basis of the She's Automatic album. And which
Great
was
album.
cool.
Yeah, about 2 years that I'd been working on when I was trapped at home, and this time it's different. So we all got to get involved, which makes it. I mean, I love a band situation.
Mhm.
So it's much better for me collaborating and
Yeah.
you know.
I remember you guys back in the day, and I enjoy you guys. And then, of course, as Lauren can attest, I'm a big Little Caesar fan. You guys. So when I heard you guys were going to be together, I'm like, how are they going to do it? How is it going to not sound when you have almost the entire band of Little Caesar playing with this other band that distinctly has their own sound? I mean, Cruzados, you cannot really compare, except when you members go solo, because then you can say, oh, they sound like the Cruzados because that's who they are. Now
Yeah,
back to the point, how do you put it together? And even I was kind of like, man, how are they going to do that? I mean, because Ron's got a very distinctive voice.
he does,
So
but Ron, a good gruff voice that can kick ass on a lot of the Crusado songs, and it really worked well. And as far as Lauren, I mean, it was a kind of a no-brainer to bring Lauren into the band. With his history and all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of players out here I could have brought in. Oh, I don't know who I could have brought in, but Lauren grew up on the Stooges, MC5. He grew up.
oh yeah,
I get a guy in LA that grew up and was raised on listening to Poison or something. So it was a no-brainer when Lauren came in and Mark Tremalia, the other guitarist, as well.
Yeah, and for myself, when Tony asked me to be involved, I mean, we all knew each other with when Tony and Tito and Chalo had the plugs, and then at the early Cruzados shows when they transcended, I was at a roadie for those guys in the early days, and I was a big fan of Stephen
Martin.
Hofstetter on
yeah,
guitar. I knew him from the Quick. So, like to your point, asking the question, how could these Caesar guys attempt this Cruzados thing? Because it is a different vibe. And, for me personally, I was just honored to be asked to be in this version of the band. And I, as a challenge as a guitar player, to get those cleaner kind of tones
yeah.
and the kind of spaghetti Western stuff, and knowing Hofstetter and the history of these guys, I wanted the challenge to continue on that on
Yeah. Well,
sound.
I never doubts about it because we've all known each other for 40 years, and they were familiar with Cruzados. I was familiar with Little Caesars. We know what everybody's kind of capable of doing. So, it took a little settling in, and I just told Ron basically, don't sing so many high notes and go low.
well, it's funny, and I'm saying, like, as I ask that question, it almost feels like so many people are always going to ask anyhow. So it's good to put it out there on the table, and to get your view on how you approached it, and like how I look at it and how everybody looks at it, because that's kind of the not elephant in the room, but it's like really it's one member and it's a whole other band, which could really kind of like just lean towards the sound. Now saying that and going and listening to it, I was pleasantly surprised, because yes, the guitars are totally different, the sound's different, and Ron is sounding different. It doesn't feel
Yeah.
like Ron is singing with the Cruzados. Like every now and then his voice, but it's not the same. It's not like, because there are some singers, no matter what they're going to do for the rest of their lives, are going to sound like that band with just different instrumentation, because they can't help it. It could be, AC/DC with Axl Rose sounds like AC/DC with Axl Rose.
Right.
Now, Ron's changed his voice a lot in this. To me, it sounds like he was going in spots I haven't heard of before. So as a fan, also just Little Caesar, you guys,
Ron,
to hear you guys play something different.
It's true. Ron was up for that challenge, and we had talked about that, and that's what he really liked about that. He could expand, on what he does already.
And that's the thing, the guitar, like I said, and Lauren, the guitars, and you guys, both you guys, and I know everyone's not here, the other guitar players not here. It's so good. It's really, I think you guys really honor the original band. You know, you think you honor it without trying to cop it, and without you guys trying to sound like you're not trying to be you, trying to copy somebody. It just sounds really good honoring it.
I think on the new disc that's coming out, the Land of the Endless Sun, they really nailed the guitar tones, and
Yeah,
even for She's Automatic record, I was really thrilled with. I mean, you know, our guitarists are always playing with trying different amps, different guitars. Perfect thing, like every rehearsal. I think Loren tries something different, right, Loren? He's always bringing it. So
Yeah.
I
Lauren's
think
a
really
tone
nailed it
chaser, right?
on this.
Right, Lauren?
Well, yeah,
Tone chaser.
you're happy somewhat, but then you're always on that quest of the holy grail of tone and stuff. But yeah, um, I'm pretty happy where things are setting right now.
You
Once I
guys
got the
sound really
right
good.
guitar for the
What are
once
you
I got
using?
this reissued an Epiphone Crestwood.
Mhm.
It's one of the new reissues, and for me, that I needed to get a guitar that could get those vintage Cruzados tones, and that guitar is just perfect. So
Very reverby
Yeah,
and
I'm really.
echoey.
it's just got this nice Bigsby tremolo on it, and normally
Uh,
I'm an SG guy, right, or Les Paul Jr., and for me to have a guitar with a tremolo on it to do spaghetti western stuff is like, and surf kind of stuff,
that's
was
pretty
fun.
fun. That's gonna be like a vacation. I mean, it's got to be kind of like so exciting as at this point in your career. Well, and for both of you, for the whole band, I mean, because for you guys to do something different and honor a band you like and be doing different instruments and singing differently, and for you to be re-performing it, because like you said, you've write up. This is you really felt like you wanted to do the band right, kind of like your legacy, wrap up of really doing the band right. So this is a very exciting, I think, creatively for everybody, and I think it
I
shows.
had a, I had a lot to prove, and I didn't want to go in with the wrong players, which in all ways, musically, history. I wanted to be in a band also with people that wouldn't want to kill each other after a month on the road. I like hanging out with my band, and that's the fun of it all. So it all has to work to be in a great, perfect band situation. You gotta like the guys, and
Here's a
you
dangerous
know
one. So Land of Endless Time is fantastic. 6 songs. So it doesn't even feel like it's short. It feels like it's like like in the '70s, like when an album was just like 30 minutes, it was like perfect. There was like no garbage in it. It feels like it's one of those things
cool.
where you just like you power through. You're like, it's over. It's like 6 songs. Like it's just
Well, thanks.
you know, it's like the perfect meal, like a burrito. Like it's just the right amount. You're like, it's perfect.
Cool.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Well, I think uh, I think in the world that we live in, people are so busy with so much information and stuff, and it's hard to grab people's attention. So, I mean, we had great responses on She's Automatic LP, but this time around, it's really a singles world anymore, and
yep.
and Tony felt like if we could come up with the right 6 songs, then it kind of is a nice slice of Crusados flavored
Yeah,
rock and roll.
I'm
You
happy
could do
with
the
there's a variety of the 6 songs. Kind of they vary, they're all different, but they kind of gel together. So
well. It is nice. It's nice to see. Like I said, I'm enjoying also hearing the band stretch the rest of the guys from listening to so much Little Caesar all my life. You know, and hearing the combination and hearing those guys blend in, stretch their sound differently and how it works together.
yeah,
It just feels so fresh. It's so
yeah,
fun knowing that with what you guys have done, Laura and you and the boys have done, and knowing the history of the Cruzados and hearing you guys play together and then start creating all these other songs.
yeah.
It's like it's really enjoyable. Each song, you're like, yeah, that works. That works. It feels right. It feels
Even with
natural.
we brought in, on the last record, Rob Clonell was a drummer, and Rob was real familiar with the Crusado sound, and our late drummer Chalo Quintana, and he felt like he had something to prove, and he really researched the drumming and nailed kind of what Chalo was doing. But then on this album, he's really bringing it further. You know, he's really letting himself get into the music now too. It's not just, you know, trying to recreate. We're moving ahead and spreading the legacy, hopefully, and doing it right. So Rob's a big part of that sound with his drums, because Chalo was a real big part of our Cruzados sound, as well as the plugs.
Well, yeah, you can't ever change, or you know, here's the thing: you can never compare an original or a classic lineup for a certain album. You can't compare the album. You can't even. It's not even fair to me to do. And I may even say this, Lauren, like when we do probably our first interview, you can't compare like the first album that the band breaks with, that you fall in love with, because you know you're either 16 or 18 or 12 or whenever you get that vinyl in your hands, it's very emotional. It's not just sonic, so you can't compare that. There's no way somebody can compare what they're going through their teenagers with the Cruzados or the first, you know, Little Caesar album. It's, you know, we're all 30 years, 40 years older now. So
taste
it's
change,
just good,
years.
Right? But it's just good music. It's still good music that you can listen to. You can't. It's not fair to compare the two. You know, you could honor it,
yeah,
but it's, you know, you don't have to do anything different. And also, I think so a lot. I love the recordings are always such better. The sound of this album is fantastic, though. I think the production on both of them actually, and the live, and actually you guys have the live thing too. Sounds good. It
that's
really,
Bruce.
yeah.
Little Caesar as well. You know, Bruce, a big part of the sound.
Bruce Whitkin, yeah, he totally gets it on many levels, being a musician himself, and he's did
Okay, that
some
makes sense.
really great records. And you know, him and Rob have a long history back to bands in the 80s.
You're talking about the production, and I'm going to say what I love about this. I don't just go for production. Never did anything with it. That's why I do music now. These shows to help you guys, because I know how hard it is. Is when the instruments, you can hear the instruments if you really listen. I mean, you might need like headphones on or something, but I can hear the different guitar parts. I can hear the band sounds live, but the drums still sound crisp. The vocals sound clean, but they still feel live. You know, the bass starts off in some of the songs like you can feel it, but it's not
good
thrash. It's just rock, and to find the right balance, I think it's hard and it's genius at the same time.
Well, we track all live, you know, in a room together, so we're going to get that live sound. That you're only going to get that way. You can't fake it or reproduce it. And then Bruce, our producer, he takes it one step further and, you know, puts his input into it and tweaks things here and there. But it all stems from just rocking together in a room, you know.
I think one thing that makes it seem like organic, like you were talking about, Sean, is like we're not cutting to a click track. As Tony said, we're playing live in the room without, you know, a click track. So
thank you for playing live. From a music fan.
Yeah. And Rob's that good of a drummer that, you know, he's pretty spot on anyway. But I mean, we're human beings. We kind of breathe and stuff, and the music kind of breathes a bit more when you don't have to click on, I think. So
yeah. That's what I like about the record, like the separation. You could hear Mark over here on one side, really jamming, and Lauren on the other. You know, you can hear everything, and that's important when you're mixing a record. You really want to get that. You know, you don't want it to be a big.
And this type of music, there's very few. There are some sounds you want to hear the guitars, and you guys, not you guys, but certain band can do like a wall of sound. You can layer the guitars differently in different tones and flavors and stuff. But in Cruzados and Little Caesar, and I can see your buddies in Junkyard, and a lot of these bands that really get kind of dirty, and the guitars, you have two guitars for a reason. You want to hear them. You want the Richards, the Stones bouncing back and forth. You want that.
Yeah.
And if I'm not hearing it, I mean, I almost feel like at one point we lost it with the Stones. I think a big part of the production came back is when, you know, for most people here, when Appetite came out, like you could finally hear guitars again, bouncing around again. Commercially, I know other bands were doing it, but I'm saying the rest of the world could hear that guitars are supposed to be bounced around. You know,
yeah,
and you guys do that. That's probably why I'm a big fan of the music too, because I like that. It feels like there's something going on.
Yeah.
You know, why have two guitars if Loren could do everything? Why would, if you're gonna mix it all together, right?
Well, that's why,
Right.
and we talk about it, but that's what's great about playing with Mark, that I was a fan of Mark's and suggested that we bring him into Caesar to do the 8 album, and like Keith and Woody and the Stones, how they
Yeah,
weave the guitar parts within Caesar, and especially in Cruzados, it just happens really organically playing with Mark, that you know and Mark from Connecticut, let's throw that in, why you're
is
based
he?
in Connecticut. I don't know what city he's from in Connecticut, but yeah, so it's cool playing with him.
Oh, I'd heard his name used around a lot anyhow. So like in the music, but to see him finally get like locked into like with Caesar and I'm doing this, to see him getting his own props, you know what I mean, is also very satisfying as a fan to see him getting attached to something. It's that guy, you know what I mean, who's always the gunslinger. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's good to see somebody get their props, and he
Yeah.
fits so well with you guys, at least from the outside, sonically.
Yeah.
He puts in a lot of work, uh, with his, just practicing getting his tones as well, like Lauren and stuff, and different amps. And I've seen him come a long way. I started playing with Mark quite a few years back now, about 10 years ago, I think was the first time we recorded some tracks together. And he's really come far in the 10 years that I've known him. He's a little younger than us, so, but man, yeah, yeah, he's quite great these days.
Moving forward, so how's it gonna, how are you gonna balance really? Obviously, the Cruzados is doing so well. Obviously, you guys got to keep going, right? There's no end in sight. The future, I hope we're gonna keep going, right? There's no timeline with Cruzados, right? Where you're gonna keep doing these albums and till you drop or what?
We're, yeah. I mean, look, this is what we do full time now, and this is what we've been wanting to do, is get back on the road and play, record, write songs. I think I could speak for all the guys. It's been a great run so far, and we're just plowing ahead, and things are just going to get more from here.
Caesar's due for another record. We've been tossing some songs around. So I'm sure when we come back from Europe, we have some woodshedding to do in the Caesar camp. And then Cruzados, we're already planning shows in different cities, from like probably July onward into the fall. We've even booked some interesting dates in the falls. So yeah, it's like we're honored and humble and very appreciative of it all at this point. So
Good. I mean, and it sounds good. I love it. It's like two different bands. I mean, it's funny because it is two different bands, but the combination of it, how it works out, is really well. I'll be honest with you, I was pleasantly surprised to hear how different it sounded, with so many members
Very,
in it.
yeah, thanks.
yeah, there's rumors that Cruzados and Caesar could go out and do shows together. It'd be like, two different bands, really, but really the same band, just interchanging bass players. But you know, we'll see.
You'll have to get Ron a costume or something.
Yeah, well, we all have a different look, between the
Yeah,
bands. So it would be like the days of vaudeville. Kind of just
Ah,
go, or you're in a different Broadway play. I mean, that's the way I approach it. It's because it's two different things, and you can't just like, I know in the jam band world, like guys playing multiple bands, but they'll just keep the same clothes on and
right.
just do both bands. But this is the Cruzados and it's Caesar, and so each one has its own kind of identity and
Well, it's
sound.
nice that you guys play, and I love this, the phrase I use a lot, is sort of the song, by you changing instruments, because some guys, when they go to other bands, they still keep the same gear. And that's kind of why it sounds like it's sort of the same band. The only danger here would have been Ron, but even Ron singing differently. He's using different parts of his voice that you don't usually hear.
Mhm.
So it really, between you have a whole new setup, which is exciting as a guitar player and as a fan to hear. You use in a different rig, and then Ron's singing differently. and then you bring in the songwriting of the original band and have the original member, you know, it makes it a lot more
Yeah.
authentic to the fact it does not sound like another band, but
I
one
was
band.
thrilled when I realized that Ron was up for experimenting and, and trying things, reaching out from the regular thing that he's comfortable with. So that was
Yeah.
really cool. And he
That was
nails
my
it,
biggest surprise. That was my biggest surprise. I was not as surprised. Lauren's a guitar guy, and I know he was going to come up with a good
Yeah.
sound. I was not as surprised that you were going to come up with a sound. I didn't know
Well,
how you guys were going to do vocally.
The first song that we did on the She's Automatic record that Ron really reached out was a song called Sad Sadie. And I was like, well, damn, he could really sing this stuff really well. And it sounded like Ron, but it sounded different, and I was like, okay, well, this is cool. Now we could really explore and try and write some new stuff,
Right. And I think when there's like, I touch on it a few times, it's important because if I, who do a million of these shows and listen to a lot of music, had that thought in my head, I'm sure a lot of fans that are casual are thinking, it's just a Little Caesar album. What's the difference going to be? And the point is, if I thought that, I want to discuss it and be like, hey, not really what it is. So I want people to take a minute and listen to the album because it's different. I want to kind of get the discussion off the table is what it is, basically. You know what I mean? By putting it out there.
That's good. I hope people give it a chance. I read a post somewhere, I don't know, like this week, and it was like, oh, look, it's Little Caesar and a different bass player.
Right. And that
so
was my
like,
thing.
Yeah. Hopefully they'll give it a chance and listen to it and realize I'm not just subbing in on bass. I'm just,
well,
it's the Cruzados.
I didn't think it was going to be that. I'm not about the first album. I was concerned that the band may sound a little bit differently, but how much is Ron's voice going to change? And once I heard the first thing, I was like, oh, this is a no-brainer. I get it. Yeah. But like you've read, I've heard this before too. And I'm like, if this was my concern, I really want to stress it to people. Don't just stop there. Listen to the albums. Take it. Go through all the songs. Listen to it. Don't just be like, I heard one track. Put your headphones in. Really listen to it. Otherwise, you're selling yourself short.
I think on the new EP too, Sean, Land of the Endless Sun, Ron really is a million miles away from what he sounds like in Little Caesar.
Exactly.
On the new songs and stuff. And next Monday, like a week from today, I think we dropped the second video, Dead Inside, that's going to come off from the new EP and stuff. And it's really a great song that Tony wrote, and it's really cool. So it's going to be fun to go play this new stuff in Europe and go back to Marseille where we recorded the live album that just came out. So
yeah, I listened to that too. That's really good too. I want to thank you guys for taking the time. I know you're getting ready to go to Europe as it is, but taking the time and talk about some of this great stuff. And hopefully we'll excite some people to check this music out because it's pretty awesome.
Nice meeting you, Sean. Thanks for having us.
Nice meeting you. We'll do this again. We'll get more stuff. Thanks.
Really appreciate it, Sean. Thank you.
No problem.
For chatting with us, and we'll catch you when we get back then.
We'll do when we get back.